Some people call me an original, some call me a dreamer, but believe me, I have a good head on my shoulders. I belong to a growing community with a passion that takes us to the edge between the normal and the paranormal, science and speculation. I am a skywatcher, and at night I spend hours observing the sky. Most of the objects and phenomena I see have a rational explanation, but some of them remain a mystery. It becomes harder every day to discern what is real from what is fake, even harder to understand what the real really is. My name is Charles Lamoureux, and when the skies are clear over Vancouver, I search the night for UFOs. Meteorites, comets, northern lights, sundogs. Since the dawn of time, humans have been intrigued and sometimes have felt threatened by aerial phenomena they do not understand. Although scientific progress has made it possible to debunk most of them, some remain a mystery, like the ones I sometimes observe from my balcony. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba. I grew up in a small suburb of St. Boniface, and that's where I went to nursing school, and I decided I wanted to get into that profession so I can travel the world. And then after all my travels, I ended up in Vancouver, in British Columbia. And this is where I've been ever since. I love it here. This is my home, my new home. Now I'm a medical consultant for a medical device company. When I was about 15 years old, we had a beautiful lakefront cabin. And this is where I really got this passion to look at the night sky. Because at nighttime, there's no lights of the city. All that you see is the stars. So when you're young and you're interested in the night sky, what a better place. And I started buying a whole bunch of telescopes. And today, I have the most incredible telescope. You just have to hit a button, it'll take you anywhere in the night sky. Then later on, I got into astrophotography. You put a camera behind the telescope and you take photographs of the moon, the stars, or whatever you want. So one day, I was in the park outside in Vancouver and I was doing photographs of the moon. Wonderful night, big full moon. So I was pointing to the moon, I was looking behind in the camera, and this strange object was passing by. I'm supposed to be taking photographs of the moon, and I saw this object. I didn't even take a picture of this object. And to this day, I'm kicking myself. So of course I've heard about UFOs before, but I've never had any interest at all. But now that I've seen one, I have to do some research, and during my research, you wouldn't believe the amount of documentation there is. Some of the most incredible, interesting, to the most ridiculous. And during my research on the internet, I came across one photograph taken in 1937 in Vancouver, just above the City Hall. And that one was really interesting because it was taken by a distant cousin. His name was Leonard Lamoureux. So in 1937, UFOs weren't really popular at all. And since the negatives are no longer available, we don't know if it was just a spot in the negative or if it was really truly a UFO. But I feel that there's a spiritual connection, being it was my distant cousin. Maybe it's my turn to start taking over and taking photographs of these objects. In my research, I discovered that many UFOs are not visible with the naked eye and can only be observed with night vision equipment. Visible light represents only a narrow part of the electromagnetic spectrum, which ranges from radio waves to cosmic rays. Near the visible light lies the infrared spectrum, and that's where many UFOs can be observed. In order to be able to see objects in the near-infrared range, I acquired a digital night vision monocular camera, and I started scanning the night skies from my balcony. My first encounter started with a strange sensation, as if I were being watched. With the light pollution coming from the city, I can easily see birds and insects, but I couldn't see anything flying around my balcony. On my binoculars monitor, I saw this ball of energy with some kind of filament spiking all around it. It was flying about 20 meters from me, and when it changed directions to avoid a building, I gathered this object had to be controlled by someone or something intelligent. When I noticed this object, it looked like a satellite traveling from west to east, but really low in the horizon. Its trajectory was so different from that of the satellites I had been observing for so many years that I had decided to follow it with my binocular. The object disappeared behind the building across the street, and suddenly, an object of the same size arrived the other way and on the same trajectory and at the same speed. I quickly looked away from my monitor and at the sky. There was nothing on the other side of the building. The object I was observing had just made a U-turn. Trust me, that was not a satellite. But there was more to be seen in the infrared spectrum, and as my passion was growing, I acquired more equipment. A Generation 3 analog night vision camera to get better results in the near-infrared range, and a thermal camera to see what's going on in the thermal infrared range. I also got a tablet on which I installed an app that allows me to locate and identify mundane objects, such as the International Space Station, satellites, and asteroids. I set up my equipment on a tripod, and so was born my Skywatcher's mobile unit, or SMU, as I like to call it. And here's one of my favorite. I spotted it at 3 o'clock in the morning above the building across from me. It had a saucer shape and it was slowly wobbling while spinning on its axis. I grabbed my binoculars and all I could see was a bright spherical object with a blue halo. It completed a couple of circles in the exact same area of the sky. Then it picked up speed and traveled towards the mountains until I couldn't see it anymore. The phenomenon lasted for 18 minutes and I caught it all on video. The object came about 3 times over the next few months, and each time I was able to film it. It's one of the most amazing UFOs I have on video. I call it the Wobbler. I often see orbs around my balcony. Orbs are translucent spheres that cannot be seen with the naked eye, but that behave like living beings would, with intelligence and purpose. I also recorded these 2 strange phenomena that I call UFO drops. An object looking like a satellite, but that is not, according to my satellite app, seems to be dropping another object. Apparently, I'm not the only one who observes these phenomena. Searching the internet, I found the skywatcher in Pennsylvania, Allison Cruz, and here's what she captures on video. Allison's sightings are fascinating, but what fascinates me the most is how much her objects and my objects look alike. This makes me want to dig deeper into the UFO phenomenon. When you start researching the paranormal, which includes, amongst other things, UFOs, hauntings, cryptozoology, you soon discover that there are scores of events on the subject all over the world. Just in Vancouver, there are at least 3 every year, like the one I'm driving to. You always find the usual suspects, such as former Canada Defence Minister Paul Hellyer or Toronto-based ufologist Victor Viggiani. People come to promote their organizations, like these Vancouver ghost hunters who happen to use the same electromagnetic detector as I do. This time, I'm here to meet with Chris Rotowski, a scientific writer who has been studying the UFO phenomenon since the big wave of the 1970s.
Well, the first point that I want to make is that UFOs exist. And that's because the term UFO simply means unidentified flying object. People report seeing UFOs. And I'm not talking about spacecraft. I'm talking about objects in the sky that you can't identify.
Chris is also involved in the writing of the annual Canadian UFO Survey, a document in which he gathers and analyzes all the data from UFO sighting reports collected throughout the country.
By the time the peak was reached in 2012, there were more than 2,000 UFO reports in Canada recorded in a single year. And this was not only civilian researchers, but also reports from air traffic controllers, from pilots, from meteorologists, the entire spectrum of good observers as well as the civilian lay population. And we think that we have a very good handle on what is actually being reported in Canada. But they could be very benign. It could be something as simple as secretive balloon launches testing the atmosphere. It could be something as simple as aircraft that are searching for drugs. So I can just imagine that British Columbia sharing its borders so closely with the United States, where there should be, some growing of illicit drugs, maybe there's something involved there too. And so there could be a lot of clandestine observations going on. We simply don't know. But it's a big step to say that we don't know what these objects are and progressing to these are definitely alien spacecraft. I don't think we have the evidence that we can link those two quite yet.
I decided to show Chris the wobbler. Maybe he'll be able to tell me what it is. So it's done this and then changes direction.
Changes direction, comes back. See, for me that suggests that it's a balloon subject to the various air currents at different heights.
Well, that's a possibility. I'm not going to throw that out at all. But I still think because of the many ones that I've seen, and they've wobbled just like this and going at a lot, up at 2 or 3 times the speed. So for me, it's not wind or air currents that are taking that thing and it's going across the sky and wobbling and spinning at the same time, and that's not a balloon. I'm a bit disappointed by Chris's explanation for my wobbler, but it's just one expert's opinion, and I need more of those if I want to start understanding what it is I'm seeing in the Vancouver night skies. Fortunately, Richard Dolan, a renowned writer and UFO historian, has agreed to come and share with me his knowledge of the phenomenon.
Well, when you're looking at something in the sky, we really are well served if we remind ourselves that there are lots of different prosaic things that such a thing could be. There are astronomical events in the sky. It is possible to be fooled by a bright star if there's moving clouds around it. It's also possible that what you're seeing might be a totally ordinary craft seen under maybe slightly unusual conditions. There are balloons that can confuse people. There's all kinds of things. And now we're in an era of drones, and commercial drones, consumer drones. Some of them can be fitted with LED lights. They can fool people. There are a number of sightings that people do have that are way too explicit, often too close, too unusual to be explained away in some simple manner like this. One of the things that I'm interested in is the possibility of whether or not there is some kind of classified space program in existence. I think that there is. And doing some search on unusual nighttime sightings of craft, I came across Charles Lamoureux's videos, and I immediately thought, these are very interesting. There it is with the whole...
I show Richard the wobbler, hoping that he'll find a less mundane explanation for it than Chris Rotowski's.
Well, first of all, whatever this is, whether this is an advanced black budget, maybe a military type of technology, or something beyond, in either case, you're really recording something that's not supposed to exist. So you're getting something that's got a purpose, that has, I would even say, a mission. Now, I have another researcher, colleague of mine, who is as close to an expert in drone technology as I've ever met. And she has indicated to me that in her research, the US military drone technology is off the charts advanced in ways that people have no idea. And so the drones that we're hearing about in the news media, they're interesting, but what's in the classified world is vastly beyond. I'm not saying that this is a classified drone. I don't really know what this is.
Hard to be a drone with wobbles.
It seems much beyond even that.
It's a digital night vision, rather this is analog. Richard's asked me to show him how my Skywatcher mobile unit works, and I am so looking forward to his reaction.
When I saw your videos, they really do stand out on YouTube as being of unusually high quality, and this is obviously why. You really went out of your way to get the right equipment to do it. My feeling very strongly is that he's shooting something that there's no conventional explanation. Now this could be terrestrial, or it might not be, but whatever it is, it's not being explained within ordinary technology explanations of what we currently have. There's something much beyond here that he's shooting.
Both Chris and Richard insisted on the importance of finding all possible mundane explanations for an object before calling it a UFO. And I agree with them 100%. I post my videos on the internet, and I don't want people to think I am some kind of a hoaxer. So I asked Lisa Ryland, MUFON Canada's lead investigator, to come and do a debunking session with me to invalidate, or maybe validate, Chris Rutelsky's claim that my wobbler is in fact a balloon. MUFON stands for Mutual UFO Network. It is an international organization that gathers UFO information from all over the world. MUFON researchers are volunteers who investigate UFO cases on their free time and in a scientific way. The MUFON website links to a database that contains thousands of UFO sighting reports. Sometimes photos and videos can be found, but they are not always very conclusive. Hence the necessity to call upon serious ufologists.
Currently we have about 15 investigators throughout Canada and different provinces. So for BC, I was actually assigned Charles's report, and I did the investigation, spoke with Charles, and there was a certain video that he has that I personally could not explain, so I did end up sending it to headquarters in the States. Our video analyst did take a look at it, and at the moment it's classified as unknown. We're not sure exactly what it is, and it's very intriguing.
Here is another night vision device. It's homemade.
Of course, as it often happens when I am attempting to demonstrate my Skywatcher's mobile unit, the sky is cloudy, which will not allow us to do a proper skywatch. I take advantage of this lull to explain to Lisa how my night vision and thermal cameras work together, allowing me to observe what's happening in the near and thermal infrared ranges.
So sometimes I can't see it with the night vision. I will see it in thermal.
In thermal, okay.
So when I see the orbs, they come in from the northwest. You got the north right here, and they start coming in, and they're bouncing around. And I'm looking with the naked eye. I can't see anything, but they're coming out with night vision. But it's just a pinpoint of light, and sometimes I can't follow it. And it'll be fairly close, 100, 150 feet away. They do seem to come around from the downtown core area on top of the buildings.
And when you shine your laser at the object with your naked eye, can you see that the laser is hitting anything?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I will hit it with the laser, and that pinpoint of light actually will look like a big, large ball. About the size of a good beach ball to a basketball size.
So
And
do you
they're
think
moving.
it's the laser is reflecting off the object, or do
absolutely.
you think the object's reacting to the laser?
Good question.
And
I don't know.
Here in Canada, we receive lots of reports. The majority of them are from Ontario, and next of all would be BC. We have lots of different types of events that are reported to us, anywhere from triangular shape objects to orbs.
You get good at knowing sometimes of an object that appears to look like a satellite, the way it's moving. I'll follow it for about 10 to 30 seconds, and it'll start slowing down or changing slightly a direction. I know right away it's not going to be a satellite, and I know that if I go to the application, there won't be a satellite there.
The clouds finally recede and we're able to do our skywatch.
On colored night vision, it'll come up as
I am explaining to Lisa how to identify the mundane objects with my equipment, when suddenly...
What is that? Like this right here.
Yeah.
It's got a cluster, and it's literally a sphere.
Yeah, it looks like something's
pulling
following or pulling it.
And it's moving very, very slowly.
The little ones.
It's about 60, 70 degrees above the horizon.
It's a possibility it could be balloons.
Yeah, it could be, but it's got a hot signature. If it's helium balloons, that's cold, right?
Yeah, that's a little odd. This is extremely exciting. I'm glad we captured it.
It is an odd sighting indeed, but Lisa is right. It could very well be balloons. I load the videos on my tablet in order to watch them simultaneously and try to identify the object.
So you can see the sphere, it seems to be pulling the larger object.
Yeah, it's kind of like a cluster.
If it could be balloons, maybe if we did a test.
Yeah, we could try to recreate it and film it and then see how it reacts.
With a thermal device and night vision at the same time?
Yeah, and then compare them. What we do is collect all the information and data that we gather and put it into a big database so researchers and scientists can gather that information more accessibly and have it all together so they can study it further. So it's good that there's people like Charles out there who are taking the time to skywatch and using all different types of equipment to help capture these objects and help us figure out what they are and what they're doing.
So here we are, the next day, organizing our UFO debunking session.
Right there.
We do our best to recreate the strange cluster we observed last night, and our colorful bouquet of balloons is starting to seriously look like it. I know that, just like me, Lisa would love it if we could prove that what we saw last night were not balloons. But there is no drawing any conclusions before we launch the balloon cluster and observe its behavior with my SMU. We also inflate a letter O mylar balloon, whose shape is the closest to that of my wobbler. I'm not entirely sure the wind conditions are similar to last night's, but at least the skies are clear. And when night comes, we're ready to launch.
So now we have our assistant over there about 100 yards or so. I'm gonna get her to launch this. Cut! There we go. Okay, it is wobbling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's not spinning.
No, it's not spinning.
So imagine if it had a lot more air current, it would probably wobble
It would
a lot,
probably wobble more, but it wouldn't
but it's not gonna spin.
be spinning.
And we're proving that right now.
Yeah.
Even with the small air current there is. Look, it flipped right upside down. My wobbler never did that.
No.
So there's no way we can rule this out. This is not the type of balloon, if it is a balloon, of the wobbler. Not at all.
No.
The donut balloon is out of sight. It is time to do our second experiment with the balloon cluster.
There we go. And now we are recording in night vision and thermal.
Okay.
There it is. So it comes up as a black hot as well.
Right.
So we can rule that out. So balloons will look like a hot signature on a thermal device, at least with my thermal device.
The one that you're using, yeah.
So now it's just a matter of ruling out the movement of that single balloon sphere, I called it.
Okay.
And now look at the action of the green.
Yeah.
It's actually, the green is ahead of the cluster. Again, we're not replicating the exact same. We don't know what the wind was like. Even though this is not a scientific, test, but it's observational and,
Exactly. Well, that's great. I'm glad we got a chance to
yeah, it was
try
really
to
good.
recreate it.
Very good. And on
Yeah.
thermal,
Yeah.
it was really there. I mean, started off as a cold signature on the ground, but
Yeah.
once it was up in a high altitude,
Then
it
that
showed
picked it up as hot.
It picked up as hot, which is really odd. So again, I think it has to do with my thermal.
I believe there is something unexplainable going on, and I think it is important for organizations such as MUFON to properly investigate the sightings and the reports and collect as much data as we possibly can, so people can do the research on it and hopefully one day figure out what's going on and learn the truth.
It is clear to me that the donut balloon is not a good explanation for my wobbler, but I'm pretty confident this last experiment proved that what Lisa and I saw last night were definitely balloons. My debunking session with Lisa Ryland is yet another confirmation of how careful one has to be before calling any phenomenon a UFO. So I am flying to the US to meet with an expert UFO debunker, Dean Gelotis, aka Constantine. Dean is an Emmy Award-winning animator and visual effects artist. He has a great sense of humor and uses it to expose some of the most popular UFO hoaxes on his website, UFO Theater.
Are you tired of spending all your spare time making UFO videos for YouTube? Modeling a spaceship alone can take hours. We have a catalog of hundreds of 3D computer-generated UFOs to use in your UFO video. Just buy it, drop it into your empty background, and you're done.
Dean lives in the high desert of California, a 2-hour drive from Los Angeles. Too bad I didn't bring my SMU, because the area seems to be a skywatcher's paradise.
It's like the Wild West out there. There's nobody regulating anything. So I decided to take on that role. I was looking for something to do that was satisfying and creative, that was my own. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna be the guy who takes out the trash. I'm gonna out these people and explain what they're doing and how, and let people know as in the best way I know how. And I have a background in comedy. It felt natural to interject that into it.
You can choose traditional looking designs like Mr. Blinky, Tip of the Hat, Pearl Drop, Lucy's Diamond, or Super Suppository, and the Home Run.
The key word is compositing. Most of my work is as a compositor, and that is, in the visual effects world, that's somebody who puts together different images into one complete image. So that is essentially the technique that people use to create hoax videos. They have a background and they have usually a fake UFO, and they try and put that fake UFO into the background and make it look like one whole image. Unfortunately, or fortunately for the rest of us, they make a lot of mistakes doing that.
Dean agrees to share some trade secrets and shows me how he debunked the infamous Swedish snowmobile UFO video that has made millions of views on the internet.
First thing I usually do is I try and stabilize the image so that it's very clear, and I zoom in. And that's where you can usually find the errors. And in this case, you can see that the object is in this little part appearing in front of something it is supposed to be behind.
It is my sincere hope that we, as a people, can finally bury this hoax forever and collectively relieve ourselves on its grave.
I think a lot of hoaxers also kind of reek of failed entertainer, and this is a way to get some attention and get some work out there that people appreciate, unfortunately for the wrong reasons, because they think it's real. Your videos are certainly very impressive. They're just not as spectacular as the hoaxes. There's plenty of stuff that cannot be explained. A small percentage of them could be, you know, experimental aircraft from this world, but I don't see what else majority of them could be, especially the ones that move like no aircraft could, are extraterrestrial, or at the very least using extraterrestrial technology.
I managed to make my visit with Dean coincide with the annual MUFON Symposium, which I'm going to attend for the first time. This symposium has been organized annually since 1970 and aims at educating the public about UFOs and the science of ufology. In spite of the seriousness with which they handle the subject of UFOs, MUFON members have a great sense of humor. I have watched several UFO-related TV shows featuring Jan Harzan, the executive director of MUFON, and I am glad to finally meet him and get to hear his take on UFOs.
So what we're trying to achieve by having these conferences is bringing like-minded people together to help try to figure out how we best move this along to the point where we can solve this whole UFO mystery. You can never really prove something is a craft from Zeta Reticuli, but what you can prove, it's nothing that's known to mankind. Now, when we have a craft that changes direction, right angles, turns, or zips off into outer space from a standing start, we know this is not traditional aircraft built here on this planet Earth, because we don't have that kind of technology. So there's people out there doing research on triangles, trying to figure out, did these originate from here on Earth, or are they really coming here from an extraterrestrial origin? We have an orange orb project right now, which is looking at the whole orange orb phenomenon, trying to determine what these orange orbs exactly are. The simple answer is that there's just other people out there in our known universe who are coming here using advanced transportation, faster than light travel, that we're now on the cusp of understanding, and they're visiting us, and they're 100 years, 1,000 years, maybe 1,000,000 years more advanced than us. To me, it's very exciting. I'd like to go meet our neighbors. I'd like to get out there and venture with them.
One of the most distinguished guests of the symposium is Stanton Friedman, a Canadian-American nuclear physicist who became, in 1978, the first ufologist ever to investigate the 1947 Roswell incident. After all these years working in the field, he has drawn his own conclusions about the UFO mystery.
First conclusion, the evidence is overwhelming that planet Earth is being visited by intelligently controlled extraterrestrial spacecraft. In other words, some UFOs are alien spacecraft. Second conclusion, we're dealing with a cosmic Watergate. That means some few people within major governments, including our own, have known for a long time that some UFOs are alien spacecraft. The third conclusion is there are no good arguments against the first two conclusions. And the fourth is we're dealing with the biggest story of the millennium, visits to planet Earth.
I take a few days of well-deserved vacation and I fly to the big island of Hawaii in order to meet with Ted Rowe. Together with former NASA research scientist Dr. Richard Haynes, Ted founded NARCAP, the National Aviation Reporting Center on Anomalous Phenomena. Unlike its acronym suggests, NARCAP is actually an international association of experts who study reports about anomalous phenomena written by military and commercial pilots, radar operators, air traffic controllers, and many other aviation professionals. A bit frustrated with the acronym UFO and its often pejorative alien subtext, the founders of NARCAP coined the word UAP to describe anything that is spotted in the sky that does not have a mundane explanation. I only know Ted via Facebook groups and an exchange of emails, but it feels like I've known him for a long time. Air traffic above Vancouver is very dense, with the commercial planes, the medevac helicopters, and the seaplanes, and I have the feeling that my videos could possibly be useful to NARCAP.
As we examine these cases of unidentified aerial phenomena, we start to see patterns, profiles of common reports, common, if you want, behaviors, and common phrases to describe the encounter itself. Some of these are lights, some of them are highly mobile, exercising dynamic trajectories. Others are very simple, they'll pull up near an aircraft and pace it for a little while and then leave. Others are intimidating in a sense that they come at the aircraft head on and sometimes multiple passes. And part of the threat involved there is the distraction of the crew. This is an example of one of our aerial pilot sighting reports. It's a very interesting one. In this case, it involves an F-111 pilot who was flying on a mission over northern England when they encountered an unidentified aerial phenomenon.
The questionnaires NARCAP collects from witnesses of UAPs are extremely detailed. Location, description of the phenomena with sketch, size, shape, color, velocity of the object, flight plan. No one in their right minds would ever want to fill up this questionnaire if they were not convinced that what they were witnessing was strange enough to be reported.
So if I had, like you saw my UFO videos in night vision, would this be something that NARCAP would pick on and actually do, I guess, an investigation as detailed as this one? Would it fall under that kind of a category?
Well, in this case, NARCAP is looking for cases that involve aviation safety.
Okay.
However, we've been conducting a study called Project Sphere. And with that, we're very interested in phenomenon that present as spherical lights or objects. And although there's not an aviation component in your sighting, the fact that it's occurring in controlled airspace over a city makes it an issue for aviation safety, and the fact that it's very good video and that it gives us some data that we might be able to glean about spherical UAP that may be manifesting near aircraft, I think it's an important study to conduct.
Awesome.
There seem to be hotspots around the world where spherical UAP are reported on a consistent basis. There are some in Arizona, there are some in the Caucasus Mountains, there's some in North Carolina, there's some in Washington State, and apparently there are some in British Columbia. Spherical UAP, as reported by Mr. Lamoureux, what he's seeing and what we are studying are similar, and I'm very interested in understanding more about his videos and coming to some better understanding of what it is he's looking at and whether or not they truly are unidentified aerial phenomenon.
In order to satisfy Ted's curiosity, I suggest we do a skywatch during the 4th of July fireworks. I have occasionally observed spherical objects during the annual Celebration of Light competition in Vancouver, so why not here? Suddenly, Ted spots something on the thermal camera monitor.
Something went by, did you see it?
No, I didn't.
It went right here, 45, high level, went right into your cloud.
Was it like a bird? Was it a...
It was bat-like, but it was straight line and...
The thermal camera only shoots 8 images per second, so it is hard to see the exact trajectory of the object.
Well, I'm recording.
It didn't... Well, good.
Yeah.
Then you got it.
Yeah, I got it.
What was it we saw tonight? Well, we'll never know. To conclude my holiday, I'm going to Williams Lake in the Caribou District, about 550 kilometers north of Vancouver, to meet with Bev Sellers, a former chief of the Shuswap First Nation, and her daughter Jacinda Mack. Both have had several UFO sightings over the years. I am curious to learn about their sightings and eager to do a skywatch in an area with almost no light pollution, if none at all. I am meeting Jacinda and her son Orden in Soda Creek, their family's tribe ancestral grounds overlooking the mighty Fraser River.
So this is Soda Creek. We come fishing down here every summer at nighttime when it's cooler, and so part of that is, the stars on a clear night. You can really see the sky really well. We come down here all summer long.
So where exactly did you have your sightings in the area?
We were down here, we were down at the river and we could see there was a full moon rising, and so we were waiting for that to crest over the mountain, and then it was just like right up in the open sky. I noticed there was a perfectly shaped triangle in the sky with the stars, and I asked Orden if he was seeing what I was seeing, and he was.
They were staying perfectly still for the first about few seconds, then after that they started to move, still spaced evenly. And then after maybe about 15 seconds or so, they started to fade really fast. Then after that, they were poof, gone.
Amazing.
Within our community, supernatural events, or what people consider to be supernatural, is something that it's not an uncommon thing to talk about. So if people have sightings or experiences, they're more likely to get more questions about it and discussion about it rather than to be dismissed as crazy.
When I was 12 years old, My Uncle Leonard used to stay up quite late. He would be outside drinking tea, and every night there was a plane that came from Quesnel about the same time, and he pointed up there, and I saw the plane, and there was something following the plane, and it was flashing different lights, and it was smaller than the plane, but it was there. It followed the plane for a while, and then it just stopped in midair. It stood there for probably a few seconds, and then it just, like a flash, just zoomed right back over the mountain that way. And the next day, we were listening to the Williams Lake station, and people had seen that as well, and they were asking others to phone in and tell them whether they had seen it.
This is what planes look like in the night skies. So believe me, anything that stops in midair and suddenly zooms away is not a plane, or any known aircraft for that matter.
The night is falling, and I set up my SMU to do a skywatch. Coincidentally, it's the last night of the Perseid shower, and we get to enjoy nature's fireworks. Suddenly, we spot an object following an unusual course. Unlike a plane or a satellite, it changes directions a couple of times.
Right, coming down like this. See, now it's going almost straight down now. It should have been following an orbital path going like this. See what I mean?
My cameras were not recording at the beginning of the phenomenon, but I'm able to capture the end of it.
It's just ending too quickly.
It could very well be a UFO. And as we finally call it quits, Northern Lights flare up as a goodbye present. Clearly, there are many of us who see strange phenomena in the sky, objects that are not supposed to be there. Some of them could potentially represent a threat, at least to aviation safety, and I believe it is important to try and figure out what they are. I am glad there are credible professionals out there who, although they have a lot to lose, study these phenomena and make the world aware of them. The people I met presented me with two major hypotheses. The first one is that some of these objects could be man-made, but use a technology so far advanced that our governments don't want us to know about it. The second one is that we could be visited by beings that are not from this planet. And if that were the case, our governments would probably not want us to know about it either, especially if they are using these beings' technology to enhance ours. And just for the sake of keeping an open mind, here's a third hypothesis, one to which I'm giving more and more thought each time I see one of my cheeky orbs. What if some of these objects were terrestrial entities that have been around since the dawn of time, but because we cannot see them with the naked eye, we don't even know they're here? Until someone comes up with a solid proof to support any of these hypotheses, I'll keep on watching the skies because after all, it's so much fun. My name is Charles Lamoureux, and after the sun sets, I search the skies for nocturnal lights.